Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, died under a cloud of mystery and tragedy that still haunts fans and observers alike. His motto, "taking care of business," was ironic because he took terrible care of himself. This king, who dazzled millions with his voice and stage presence, hid a darker truth behind the sparkle of his suits and the shine of his hair. The story goes that Elvis once dug a hole in his foot to get some powerful pills. This wasn't just a wild rumor, it was a glimpse into his desperate struggle with addiction. Marty Lacker, someone close to Elvis, recalled how Elvis would say, "Bet I get some good stuff now," after getting a new supply of drugs. This shows how deeply entangled Elvis was with substances, seeking relief in any way he could. Lamar Fike, another member of Elvis's inner circle, described those last painful years. "He was tormented," Fike said. "He didn't know how to stop the drugs and he didn't want to." This captures the painful cycle of addiction Elvis fought against, wanting to quit but unable to break free. Elvis's decline wasn't just personal, it affected his career too. Robin Williams pointed out the stark contrast between Elvis's early success and his later work. "Remember the young, sexy Elvis?" he asked. Then there was this guy in spangled jumpsuits hiding behind sunglasses. This change wasn't just in image but in spirit. Elvis was losing himself amidst the excess. Film critic Gene Siskel lamented that while Elvis's musical legacy was incredible, his films were among the worst Hollywood ever produced. Gary Merrill, an actor who knew Elvis, shared a poignant moment. "I remember thinking, we've come so far, from All About Eve to this." Merrill's comment highlights the fall from grace in Elvis's film choices, moving from respected cinema to something more kitsch and forgettable. Betty White humorously noted that Elvis's live shows turned him into kitsch, leading to a whole industry of impersonators. This was not just a side effect, but a symptom of Elvis's own struggle to maintain relevance. Michael Hutchence of INXS added a somber thought: "The impersonators began sprouting like mushrooms even before Elvis died. That must have been mortifying for him." Don Ho, a fellow Hawaiian singer, shared a chilling prediction about Elvis's death. "Elvis Presley's death came as a shock to most people," he said. "Few knew the extent of his addictions and unhealthy behavior." This underscores how Elvis's personal battles were hidden from the public eye, adding to the shock of his untimely death. The death of Elvis also brought forth controversies and misinformation. Vernon Presley, Elvis's father, lashed out at Caroline Kennedy for her visit to Graceland and her subsequent article in Rolling Stone. He felt she had insulted both Elvis and the family. This shows how deeply Elvis's legacy was tied to his family and how protective they were of his memory. The media's fascination with Elvis didn't end with his death. The National Enquirer sent a disguised reporter to the church where Elvis lay in state, only to be scolded by a fake priest. This incident highlights the public's insatiable curiosity and the lengths people went to catch a glimpse of the king. Tabloids and gossip columns fed the public's desire for more on Elvis's life and supposed relationships. Cher recounted how she was falsely linked to Elvis through manipulated photos, illustrating the blurred lines between fact and fiction in the media. As years passed, the legend of Elvis grew, but so did the urban myth of his survival. Trumpeter Al Hirt joked, "Elvis didn't die, the body did, we're keeping up the good spirits." Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis's manager, even went so far as to claim he talked to Elvis after his death, saying, "He told me to carry on." This shows how the Elvis myth persisted, fueled by those who benefited from his fame. Behind the scenes, the battle over Elvis's estate revealed a darker side. J. Russell King from the New York Times reported on the conflict between Colonel Parker and the Presley family, uncovering Parker's greed and corruption. Parker's vast earnings from Elvis's image contrasted sharply with the financial ruin he left Elvis's estate in. Colonel Parker's influence extended beyond just managing Elvis's career. He shaped Elvis's artistic direction, keeping him from fully exploring his potential as an artist. Leslie Gore described Parker as a greedy, conniving, corrupt old fraud who used Elvis like a mint, squeezing every dollar possible. Meanwhile, William F. Dufty noted that Parker prevented Elvis from becoming a more diverse artist, keeping him trapped in a narrow role. Despite these criticisms, some saw Parker as a necessary evil. Author William F. Dufty argued that Parker gave Elvis a father figure he lacked, helping him find success even if at a great personal cost. Parker's own wealth was staggering. Malcolm Forbes reported that when he died, there was only $1 million left from the Parker estate, indicating how much he had drained from Elvis's legacy. The public's fascination with Elvis continued even after his death, with impersonators and wannabes emerging. Lisa Marie Presley confirmed that Michael Jackson had indeed used her, suggesting a complex web of admiration and imitation. This shows how Elvis's influence extended far beyond his own work, inspiring others to chase stardom, often with mixed results. As new stars tried to emulate Elvis's success, critics pointed out the pitfalls. Jennifer Lawrence humorously remarked that trying to be like Elvis often backfires, while Billy Ray Cyrus, a country singer, felt overshadowed by Elvis's legacy. Radio critic Tina Vespucci dismissed John Schneider's attempt at an Elvis cover, showing how tough it is to live up to the original. Despite the comparisons and the attempts to follow in his footsteps, true stardom requires more than just mimicry. Barbara Walters noted that becoming a new James Dean or Elvis is easy, but gaining genuine fame takes time and a unique identity. This truth echoes through the careers of many who followed Elvis, reminding us that true artistry is rare. Some artists, however, felt overshadowed by Elvis's towering presence. K.D. Lang refused to be called the female Elvis, asserting her own identity. Similarly, operatic singer Mario Lanza criticized Elvis for not writing his own songs, seeing him as more of an interpreter than a creator. Sammy Cahn, a respected lyricist, pointed out Elvis's lack of discipline in songwriting, suggesting that while Elvis was great at performing others' work, he lacked the depth to create his own. George Harrison of the Beatles offered a blunt assessment of Elvis's influence, stating that Elvis didn't know enough to go his own way, except musically. John Lennon echoed this sentiment, calling Elvis a lost soul who never truly found himself outside of music. These insights reveal the complexities of Elvis's character and career, beyond the surface glamour. In the end, Elvis Presley remains a figure of immense contradiction, an artist who captivated the world yet struggled deeply within. His story is one of brilliance and tragedy, a reminder that even the most dazzling stars can hide profound pain. As we reflect on his life and legacy, we see not just the king of rock and roll, but a complex human being whose journey continues to resonate. Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, remains a figure shrouded in mystery and commercial exploitation even after his death. Friends and insiders offer glimpses into his true nature and the ways his legacy has been managed and manipulated. Brian Epstein, the Beatles' manager, once said that despite Elvis's public persona, he harbored deep dislike for the young musicians. This sentiment reveals a complexity beneath the surface of Elvis's famous charm. People often remember Elvis for his bright, flashy image, but behind the scenes, things were different. Elvis's estate turned into a money machine after his passing. Graceland, his Memphis home, became a tourist trap of sorts. Visitors pay good money to walk through the first floor of where he lived, turning his private space into a public spectacle. This transformation started when Priscilla Presley, Elvis's widow, considered selling the property due to the high costs of maintaining it. Instead, she opened it to the public in 1982, starting a lucrative business that continues to this day. The Presley family and their business partners have fiercely guarded Elvis's image. They've sued various people who used his likeness without permission, from performers to souvenir makers. However, authors are exempt since writing falls under freedom of expression. This approach shows how the family tries to control every aspect of Elvis's legacy, even going after those who simply write about him. One former employee described Graceland as a place where Elvis is whitewashed, stripped of his flaws to create an almost saint-like image. This sanitized version of Elvis is far from the real person, who had his share of problems and complexity. A publicist noted how this image is maintained to keep tourists interested and spending money. The manipulation of Elvis's image extends beyond Graceland. There was even a battle over how he should be depicted on a postage stamp, ultimately favoring the image that showed him as the Vegas performer rather than the early rock and roll icon. This decision highlights how his image is controlled to appeal to the masses. Elvis's influence on fashion and culture is undeniable, though it has become a laughingstock over time. Costume designer Ray Aghayan pointed out that while Elvis's 1970s style was once peacock revolution, it's now seen as ridicule-worthy, something only imitators dare attempt. This shift shows how quickly fashion trends can change and how Elvis's style, once emulated, is now mocked. Even the way Elvis is remembered in media reflects this controlled image. A cinematographer noted that the chosen image for an Elvis postage stamp was the one that showed him in his Vegas prime, not the later, more troubled years. This choice illustrates how even official representations of Elvis are curated to maintain a certain image. Drug use is often speculated to have driven Elvis's excesses in his later years. A renowned filmmaker suggested that Elvis's entire persona in the 1970s revolved around excess and a refusal to change, despite the cost to his health and career. This downward spiral was well known, but it was part of the package that fans came to see, curious to witness the decline of the once unbeatable king. Fans remembered Elvis more for his looks than his music, according to a former backing singer. Andy Warhol went even further, stating that Elvis's looks were his true fortune. This focus on physical appearance over talent is a common theme in celebrity culture, where how someone looks can be more valuable than their art. There were attempts to change Elvis's image, even in his later years. His hairdresser suggested growing his hair out to highlight his suits and restore some of his earlier charm. However, Elvis was hesitant, fearing it would be too much of a change for his fans. This reluctance shows how, even in his final days, Elvis was mindful of his public image. Rumors about Elvis's personal life also reflect the fascination and speculation surrounding him. A director of one of his films hinted at sexual hang-ups and a peculiar fascination with young girls in white panties, speculating about deeper issues. These revelations add to the enigma of Elvis's character, suggesting a complex individual beneath the public figure. Elvis's relationships and family dynamics were also fraught with issues. A co-star revealed that he was engaged to Priscilla when he died, but his past behavior, including an attempted murder plot against a man she loved, showed a darker side to his personal life. This complexity humanizes Elvis, showing he was not just a public icon but a man with personal struggles. In the end, Elvis Presley's legacy continues to be shaped by those who control his image and the stories told about him. From the commercialization of his home to the curated versions of his life presented in media, Elvis remains a figure caught between his authentic self and the myth created around him. His story serves as a reminder of how fame can both elevate and obscure the truth about a person. Elvis Presley's life was full of interesting stories and events that show how complex his personality really was. Let's explore some of these moments in a simple way. First, there was a time when Elvis was playing pool at his home, Graceland. A lady was talking and Elvis got so focused on the game that he snapped and threw his cue stick at her. It hit one of her breasts and hurt her. Even though it was a bad incident, she didn't sue him. This shows how sometimes people close to Elvis were willing to overlook his rough moments. Elvis's relationships were also complicated. His girlfriend at the time, Linda Thompson, said he was hard to handle and that she felt like she was always taking care of him. This wasn't the first time someone close to him left. After 5 years, Linda decided she couldn't do it anymore. She said he was self-destructive and that she was tired of taking care of him all the time. In another surprising turn, Elvis got into a lot of trouble with investments. He and his friends bought a chain of racquetball courts, but it was a bad idea. His road manager and a doctor who gave him too many pills also got into trouble and sued Elvis. Yet, despite all this, Elvis kept them around. This shows that loyalty meant a lot to him, even when it didn't make sense. Elvis had a strange obsession with guns. He thought they represented power and masculinity. He collected guns and even badges from police departments, even though he knew he had a drug problem. This was a big part of who he thought he was, even if it wasn't healthy. His spending habits were wild too. Elvis would buy expensive things like gold belts and bracelets for his group of friends. His father, who managed his money, would get upset about how much he spent. There was one time when Elvis got so angry that he shouted at his father and drove away. This shows how sometimes his emotions would get the best of him. Elvis visited the White House hoping to get a special badge from President Nixon. But he also lied about being sober while writing to Nixon, which was a big lie. The movie about Elvis and Nixon didn't show his drinking, even though friends said he was a heavy drinker. This secret part of his life was kept hidden. His marriage to Priscilla was also troubled. Priscilla felt lost as Elvis's extramarital affairs and drug use pushed them apart. Even though she tried to make it work, the marriage fell apart quickly. Elvis was more focused on being Elvis than being a husband or father. Elvis's health suffered because of his lifestyle. He would eat a lot and then starve himself. He took huge amounts of different pills to feel good or calm down. His weight problems were clear, especially as he got older. Despite this, people close to him often avoided saying he was overweight. Elvis's death at a young age shocked many. Some say he died from health issues like high blood pressure and a twisted colon. He was taking many strong pills that could have contributed to his death. Even in death, the truth about his lifestyle was hard to face. When actors try to play Elvis in movies, they struggle with how to look and act like him. They need to capture not just how he looked, but how he moved and felt. Many actors have tried, and while some faced criticism, they all tried their best to show Elvis's emotional journey. In the end, Elvis Presley's life was a mix of talent, fame, and personal struggles. His story teaches us that behind every icon, there's a complex person with real problems. It's not just about the music or the fame, it's about understanding the person behind it all.